So I got myself a set of Castle Arts 120 colored pencils. I'm pretty excited to use these. I see a lot of people using them and I wanted to see if they were what everybody had said they are. So let's get started. We're going to start looking around. Now I did talk to the Castle Arts people. They did say that these aren't rated for light fastness. However, they do have light fast qualities. I'm not sure what that means. If they just use the same kind of stuff to put in it to make them, then they would be a good quality pencil. They come in a really nice tin. I like this. I think it's really cool. So let's open it up. And up here it has all of the colors that are included. It talks about, what you're going to get, or, go to castlearts.com to join for a club, which is cute. We've got a couple little pamphlets in here. Oh, it shows you how to make the castle, which is neat. Put that there. Now I do own the watercolor set as well. And I did create with them. Now, because it doesn't have a fastness rating, I would say if you are using these for fun, I would use them. They seem like they're really nice colors. I've heard some good things about them. But if you're doing professional work and you don't know if they're going to fade, I probably wouldn't use it. Since they haven't been tested, I wouldn't want to sell artwork using these just because I don't want, it to fade. So we've got this color system chart. We've got this color chart. Very cool. Has all the colors listed. Has these little symbols. So, okay, so here's your key. And it says colored pencil, watercolor pencil, oil paint tubes. Has all their colors on there. This is really cool. So that's really nice. Shows some different things. Very good. We'll put that over here. So now let's look at the colors. These look really rich. They have their logo on it. Castle Arts has the number, which is right here, number. Lemon yellow and the name, lemon yellow light. Of course, that's with all of them. They seem to be in order. We've got lots of nice colors, and it looks like there's three tiers here with all kinds of colors. So next, let's test out how they feel, how they blend, and let's see what we can create. So I drew this on a little bit thicker, my base lines, and I just sketched that from, just a freehand sketch of what a pumpkin would look like. And I'm just going to go ahead and lighten some of those lines up so that they don't bleed into my colored pencil and then it doesn't pick it up. And plus, if you're using Bristol board like I am, like the Bristol paper, it'll shine through. And you don't want to push hard either whenever you do your main lines, because it does have memory. So if you push too hard, you will put divots and indents in there. And of course, this could be very helpful if that's what you're going for, like if you were doing like a cat and you were making whiskers or something like that. So once you get the heavy lines taken off, and you can still see the lines, because that's important too, then you can get started. So I'm going to start with my golden yellow deep, and I have scratch paper over here so I can just look to see what it's going to look like. So we can start with that, and also use your lemon yellow because it's a little bit lighter. So that's what we'll do. So I'm going to start with the golden yellow deep, and let's just add an outline and then just add a little bit of the yellow here. Now I kind of want to keep that a loose texture because I want to get like a nice textury pumpkin I don't want to just scratch in color. I don't want to go in heavy at all. The trick with pencils is to really, really layer, really get a nice thin layer and then keep layering to get that realistic look. So let's start with that. Now I'm not looking off of a picture. I don't have a reference photo. I'm just kind of winging this, so just kind of doing what I want to do with it. So letting my imagination play. Let's put a little bit of the lemon yellow. Let's actually put it up here, and I want to put it in here because I'm going to be adding the orange and some reds, and I kind of want to brighten them up just a little bit. Down here we're going to add some browns and some reds, maybe a little bit of orange. We'll just play around with that. Maybe add a little bit in here. So you might find too, like where these little creases are in the pumpkins, might be a little bit darker. And let's move on to the brilliant yellow, and let's see what that looks like. It's a little bit darker. There's not much of a difference, like too much of a difference between these two. So maybe we won't do the brilliant yellow. And the reason being is that this paper doesn't take a whole lot of layers of pigment. So we don't want to ruin the tooth of the paper before. So I'm just going to put that one away. And we might use it later to blend, but it's not that much darker. So rule of thumb, it's not always great to have so many colors. You can have very few colors and still do a really good job. Now, if you have a paper like this that doesn't take a lot of layers, it is nice to have the exact colors that you want to lay down and you have less colors. Whereas if you have something with more tooth, like a Bristol, or not a Bristol, a pastel mat or a vellum, something like that, if it takes a few more layers, then you can kind of play around with several more colors. Okay, so let's actually go in with, I'm going to use let's do the orange lake. And I'm being very light about this, so maybe I'll zoom in so you can see. Okay, so using the orange lake, I zoomed it in so you could watch a little bit better with my pressures. And what I'm going to do is I'm just going to very lightly come alongside this line, or this pumpkin line right here, kind of a section. And I don't want it to be like completely uniform the whole way down, so I can add a few little bits, maybe skip over a part, maybe add some on this side. Reason being is that when we're drawing realistically, it's not going to be like super perfect. I mean, even if you look at people's faces, you cover one side of the face on a picture and then look at the other, they differ slightly. And we can actually get it a little bit darker down in here because that is the base of our pumpkin and it is quite a bit darker. Unless we had it on a lighted table or something, it's going to have a little bit more of a deeper value. I'm trying to keep everything in circular motion. You don't want to go back and forth. You don't want to go really hard. You just want to keep light strokes, light layers. And then let's add just a little bit more going through here, through the pumpkin here. Might skip a little bit. Might come up in the middle a little bit. Now I felt pretty comfortable doing this actually and winging it because I actually did a pumpkin with a kitty cat last month, so that was one that I did on my Patreon and it went really well. So I'm kind of familiar with pumpkins at this point. Okay, so now that you have that down, you know, I've got a couple other things here. I got some reds and browns, but I think I'm going to go with, let's see what burnt ochre would look like. It's a little bit darker. Let me see. Let's look at terracotta. And I'm trying to find the best tones to use to add some value to it. So the burnt ochre is a little bit more orange. Or no. Yeah, the burnt, wait, let me find it. The red ochre, or the burnt ochre is a little bit more orange. I'm sorry, I got pencils in both hands. I'm like, which one did I use? So the burnt ochre is a bit more orange, and the terracotta is a bit more brown. So I'm going to lay the terracotta aside, actually. Let me see what the red ochre looks like next to. Okay, so the red ochre is obviously a bit more red. So I'm going to actually place the red ochre away, and we're kind of narrowing it down to different what pencils we're going to use. Now, the scarlet red, yeah, it's a bit more red. So I think I'm going to put that one away as well. Okay, I think that our terracottas and the burnt ochre will do well, along with the cinnamon, and I have also the Van Dyke brown to add some extra depth to it. So let's start with our burnt ochre. I don't have a super sharp point either, and I'm not trying to, I don't really want one, I guess is what I'm trying to say. Just because I know that the pumpkin is mostly smooth, I'm not really trying to get like hair or anything like that, so I'm not really worried about, you know, getting a sharp line. Okay, so I'm going to add this in here, and it seems like everything is blending well. This is the first time I'm using these pencils, and I really wanted to create something that was easy and that would also showcase the intensity of the color. So pumpkins, plus it goes with the time of year. So one thing I have noticed with these pencils is that I'm not rotating them as much. When I wear like a flat spot in the core here that I'm using the tip, when I wear out the flat spot, I'm not turning it as much to get to the point, because it's almost like I'm coming in and it's causing like a harder line to appear rather than a softer line, which is okay. I mean, it's not terrible. I can handle that because it can blend. So I'm actually going to go over some of this very lightly where that yellow was, and we'll come back over with that yellow and we'll push it all together. So it's actually looking really well. I'm actually pretty pleased with that. Let's try some terracotta. Let's do some terracotta down in here. Let's darken up these areas a little wee bit. And I'm not pushing hard still. I don't want to burnish. If you don't know what burnishing is, it is pretty much you are mushing, you're forcing all the colors to blend, and you're pushing really hard, a lot of pressure. But I don't want to put a whole lot of pressure here. I just want to add a little bit of this color. Maybe even put some over here. Okay. Let me see. Cinnamon versus Van Dyke brown. Of course, the Van Dyke is much darker, and I might actually do that. So let's check out the Van Dyke brown with this orange here. So maybe we'll come up here with a little bit of the Van Dyke brown. Maybe up here. And then maybe I'll add some right in here. All right, let's go back through. Let's use our golden yellow deep. And let's go back through and just kind of start to push these together. We're not going to burnish, but I just want to overlay some of this. Sometimes you get yellow on the pumpkin too, like where they're growing from, and they get like a yellow spot, and that's okay. And we'll just kind of put that in there. So I'm not pushing hard, I just want to add a layer of that and then also try to smooth out these other colors. And that's going to come in this way. And then let's use some more of our lemon yellow. It's a little bit lighter. And we'll come in here. Okay. And do some burnt ochre. See, and I just keep going back and forth with these pencils. It's always good to layer. Now, if you end up overworking a piece, sometimes it happens, and it's not, I mean, it can be devastating, but it's not, if you're just practicing, it's really just, I mean, just for fun, learn your pencils, learn stuff. But there are some ways that you can pick up some of the pigment with the tape, or, you know, maybe your kneaded eraser will take some away. I've never had a whole lot of luck with my kneaded eraser really taking away a whole lot of pigment, but I know tape really, really works. You have to be careful with tape too, because tape will rip your paper. So you have to be very, very, very careful. Okay, let's add a little bit of Orange Lake in there. See how we're getting a little bit of some texture, and we're getting some, we're just kind of being a little loose with our lines. And our circular motions. If you're being a little loose, you'll get texture. And then let's jump back to our Van Dyke brown. Let's make this a little bit darker in here. And we'll come back through with some black too, just to sharpen it up a little wee bit. Just kind of going over some spots. And really, when you just like gently go over areas, you just are adding more blended areas that look really, really good. So just keep blending. Now, if it won't take any more pigment for you, it's a possibility that you've burnished, and you just either have to move on and just accept it, really, because after it burnishes, it won't take any more. Just won't take any more. Let's add a little bit more burnt ochre. I'm going to come down in here because a little bit like reddish. We'll just looks pretty good. Maybe we'll add some texture here, like a line. Just give it some a little bit more dimensional there. We'll just add a very thin line of the Van Dyke brown. Maybe even come on this side with it. And that looks nice. Okay. You can even do like little warts kinda. Yeah, they get those pumpkins, sometimes get those growths. Can do a couple little ones. And then maybe come back through with some of our lemon yellow, lighten them up on one side, and then kind of go over them a little bit. Now when you do that too, let's come underneath them with a little bit more dark. Maybe we'll connect it. There, that looks nice. Okay. Let's move on to the next. Use our golden yellow deep. Okay. And let's start the process all over again. Very light. And I bled this side over into here because I'm going to kind of make that look like it's just kind of flat. You know, whenever you get pumpkins, they're not, those little tiny pumpkins are usually like very uniform, like they have like very distinct lines, very distinct separations, and but like sometimes when you get into the big ones, they don't really have like distinct separations. I mean, you can see the ridges, but a lot of them are connected. Pumpkins are super interesting in texture. They're like smooth, but they're bumpy. And they have sections, and they're shiny, and then sometimes they're dirty. Okay, so it's going to be darker down here. So let's just add a little bit more. I'll kind of come in here and add a little bit here. Maybe that's a hard shine. Maybe we'll leave that brighter. The one thing with Bristol paper is that you really do have to preserve a lot of the areas. Like with white, if you're going to do like a white area, you want to make sure that you leave that open. Because if you color it, I mean, Bristol really doesn't, you don't have that flexibility to just go back over it with like a white. You'll burnish it. So now I have my burnt ochre, and I'm very lightly again just adding my color. And this is going to be darker down here, but I don't want you to go and just push into the paper. We want to add that layer, but we want to make sure that we can put the Van Dyke brown, and then also when we go back over it with black, if you decide you want some black in there. So what we'll do right here, instead of making it really dark, is this crest that's right here. Don't color it. Just kind of move alongside of it. Keep control of your pencil. See how I'm skipping it? I'm not doing it. I'm just going to create this shine and use the paper as my shine. And then see, it'll blend real nicely into that yellow. And then we can just scoot this over into, bleed it into each other. See that? That turned out nice. And let's just blend this a little bit more. Now I envision in my mind that there's going to be some lines and textures, maybe some bubbles, little like things. There. And let's continue. Let's do some of our lemon yellow. I'm actually going to sharpen my pencil. I'm going to add it in here in the lighter areas, and I'm not going to push real hard either. You just want to be very gentle in adding that little bit of pigment. And I kind of went up into this white area that we left alone, just very lightly. I just want it to blend like it's a shine, but then it goes down into that yellow. And then once you are satisfied with adding the lemon yellow, we can go ahead and move to the let's put in some, I'm going to do a little bit of terracotta. Let's do some terracotta in like these little areas. Maybe just, isn't it neat how when you add that little bit, it just makes it look so much better. Like they're beginning to be more like parts of the pumpkin that's like sticking out rather than just lines. And it's just that little change really helps. Value really helps. Okay, so let's add right here. So we have our terracotta, and I think that I'm going to make this dark here, but I think I'm going to connect it like this. Okay, let's put a little bit up here and down here. Just adding that additional color will help. Okay, so now I'm going to use my Van Dyke Brown. Of course, this is the much darker. I'm just going to very lightly, we're just going to add it in here. The bottom. Maybe go over those spots, and don't go over all the line. It's cool if you just kind of go over some of it. Shows some deeper areas, some not so deep areas. Just gives it more dimension, more realistic look. So let's do some Orange Lake here. And let's blend. And we can add it right in here because it will soften that edge quite a bit. That way our sun, like our light direction, is maybe coming straight down or from the side, and we can make this side of the pumpkin really dark. So maybe that's what we'll do. We'll make this dark, and we'll make the sun direction coming right this way so that we have our shadow on this side. we'll go very lightly over the yellow parts, just blending that yellow in with the orange, and then we'll add the yellow on top so that it blends even more. Again, you want to be very light about this, especially with this type of paper. This type of paper only allows for a few, maybe 10 or 15 layers, and you don't want to overwork it too quickly. Okay, let's go back to our burnt ochre. Let's mush some of that a little bit. Okay, back to our orange lake. Maybe push a little further into that yellow part. Okay, and then let's use our golden yellow deep again. Let's go over, really make this orange a little louder. It's going to brighten it up. I'm not burnishing, just adding a layer on top. I personally don't use burnishing all that often. I mean, I'm sure I have sometimes, but I'm not really a big fan of it. But it is effective for some, for some artists. And it's not always bad to have the paper shine through a little bit like this. I know when I first started, it really bothered me if any kind of paper was shining through, but sometimes to use the paper color to your advantage can be much more satisfying than just going over it with pencil and making the shine. It's less work too, because I don't really have to do anything right there. So, okay. Let's go in with some more Van Dyke Brown. Let's darken up some of these areas. So since we've established that our light is like coming this way, which maybe I'll do this. This is where our light is coming from, because we're going to start to get into darker territory here. So pretend that's our sunbeam. So that will help remind us that some of these need to be, like some of these areas are going to be darker. Maybe we got a few like little shadows coming on the pumpkin right here. Maybe on this side we've got a couple shadows. So that would kind of take that out, huh? Let's get some orange lake. Kind kind of darken this up just a little bit more and even come into this area. Now we haven't done any black yet, so once we do the black, now I mean, I don't know if you've followed any of my, if you're watching now, I don't know if you've followed any of my tutorials, but I personally like to use black. Some artists do not like to use black, and that's fine. I don't really care what you like to use. If you just want to keep using brown, you can go ahead and use brown. It looks great the way it is. I think it looks wonderful. You know, but it's all in preference. I just want some deeper values, and that's what I will use. I think I'm gonna do that. Okay, so before I move on, let me see. I'm gonna move my sharpener out of the way. So let's keep that pointed there. And these are the little bits of pumpkin behind. So let's actually get those completed. Oh, that was the golden yellow deep. This is the orange lake. And we might even get like a little bit of a shadow from the stem on the pumpkin. So it was funny when I did the pumpkin last month on my Patreon, I was kind of shocked to see that the pumpkin stem was actually pretty much the same color as the pumpkin. It just had, you know, become like brown, and it wasn't very green or anything. So it was interesting for me, just because I was like, oh, I'll need brown, I'll need green, I'll need, you know, like kind of going through my list, and I made it look appropriate with the same oranges and yellows and browns. I was pretty shocked at that, but I thought it was cool. So I'm just kind of following along, allowing that top to stay bright. And now I have the orange lake. I'm going to go back in. I was using the terracotta, so let's use a little bit of the Van Dyke brown just to separate just a little bit more, because this is kind of going down in a deep crevice here, and there, we don't want them to get lost. And then let's use some lemon yellow just to blend those together. There. Okay, so back to the golden yellow deep. Let's start on this side. Our last step will be the shadow and where the pumpkin is sitting. Of course, I don't have a picture for this, or I'd tell you to look at your reference photo, but this helps a lot. Tries to give us, you know, instruction on where to put the shadow. The shadow will be on the opposite side, so if it's coming straight this way, shadows will be on this side, but it would be on like a wall, because you're not really going to have a whole lot, or it'd be like super stretched out, like a super stretched out shadow. This one, since it's so direct, the shadow is going to be on these, I mean, quite possibly, it looks like we're going to continue like this way with the shadows. Maybe even, it might even curve up a little bit more like that, actually. So, and that's a good thing to do too, is just go through and, you know, my shadow, I want it to be like this. So that would mean your shadow is going to be pretty similar beneath the pumpkin. Now, if you wanted to, you could even, instead of doing the base color as this yellow, you could almost just go in straight in with a terracotta and just start it out dark, or even an orange, the orange lake. And that actually might help, especially if you have a paper that doesn't take as many layers like this one. So let's test that on this side. Since I already have that one done, we'll test that on this side, since that's going to be our darkest area. Okay, so let's go in with our burnt ochre. We're going to start here. Maybe I will go around so you can see it better. I think that'll help. So we want to add this burnt ochre. Kind of curve it up this way. Now, do you see how I kind of feathered it into that yellow rather than making that hard line? I don't want the hard line at all. So I want it to look like there's a line there, but I don't want that really harsh line. And then let's bring it up here. Maybe these two connect a little bit. Maybe there's a lump there. We'll just skip over that. And then maybe we'll keep that brighter so that it looks like a shine. Just kind of making it up as we go, which I think sometimes can be really fun. If that stresses you out, I'm sorry. But just have fun with it. I mean, yeah, we do it for a living, we do it for fun, but you know, it's fun to create. Like, just have fun with it. Don't feel like you have to, you know, push this out for anybody. Don't feel it's for you. Like, this is just to have fun with your pencils, just to create. Back to the golden yellow deep. Let's go back through, brighten up some of this orange in here. Okay, let's use some terracotta. Now remember, this whole side, like from here all the way down, is dark because of the way the light is pointing. Don't get too heavy on your hand. It can be tempting to want to really dig so that you can get the pigment on faster. That used to be a problem of mine. I am naturally a very heavy-handed artist, and it's taken a good 3 years for me to untrain my brain, or retrain my brain, I guess, and untrain it from doing, making a mistake of being super heavy-handed. Now, heavy-handedness isn't always bad. I just personally, I know myself, when I was drawing really heavy-handed, I wasn't getting the look that I wanted. So I said to myself, I really have to try harder to remind myself, stop being so heavy-handed. And it took a while, but so if you hear me saying it, I'm not trying to boss you, I swear, but I'm bossing you. So don't be so heavy-handed. Back to the burnt ochre. And I will tell you too, I think that's why I like pastel mats so much, is because I can be a little bit heavier on that one. It just takes so much abuse with your pencils. It really likes to take layers, and I think that's why I like it so much, because I can kind of just be a little bit heavier with it. Whereas with the Bristol, like we're using now, it has a very limited amount, and you have to be very light with it. Ooh, you know what I'm going to do now? Now watch this. Okay, so you see this line that's right here that I created. Okay, so that is my phone's going crazy. Hold on. I hope that helps. I put it away from me. So what I want to do is, instead of creating just a line, that goes up, we can further do this and kind of create these shadows that go around these areas and create a further depth. Do you see it? And then we can do it again with this one, just to give it more of a, it's kind of a loopy thing. It looks good. Maybe there's a little bit of a pucker in there, right? Okay, and then we'll continue like this, because then that opens this up for a little bit more. This would be a little bit shadowed. And then we might have a little bit of a shadow on this end. All right, let's go back in with our golden yellow deep. Brighten up some of that. Okay, and then let's go in with our Van Dyke brown around the bottom. That's going to be very dark on this side. So we can actually just go all the way up with it. Remember, you don't want to be real heavy about it. Even though it's dark, you don't want to be super heavy-handed. Maybe we'll make this a little darker in here, like it's a flaw in the pumpkin. Okay, let's add some orange lake down here. Maybe just get that a little bit darker, a little bit, blend it just a little bit better. Now you'll probably hear me blowing on my paper. That really isn't proper etiquette. What you should do is have a paintbrush and just kind of swipe it. This is a very soft paintbrush. Of course, you can see I have used it. I wasn't using it now, but I can use it now. But I wouldn't get a stiff brush just because like if it's a little more stiff, it might grab some of this and smear it depending on what type of pencils you have. These are the Castle Arts. I'm not sure what that'll do, but we can always test that too. I've just always used a really soft one because I don't want to take that chance or risk it. And let's further blend that a little bit better. Add some more up here. Okay. Let's get a little bit more of the golden yellow deep. We are nearly to the point where we're going to start finishing it up. So let's test out what it does over here using a different method, putting the dark down first. Maybe some terracotta up here, actually. The terracotta seems to be a really nice buffer, like it blends well. So actually, I think instead of going straight in with like the darker Van Dyke brown, I'm probably going to go in with the, let's see, probably the terracotta. Yeah, let's do that because it's like a brownish, I mean, it's going to be darker down here, but like let's start with that because it's like a brown. It's not much orange. And I'm just going to be very gentle about that. So do you see, ooh, a bug. You see how light I'm being about that. Like I'm not digging the paper at all. I'm just adding a very light layer, trying to keep my circular motions going. Let's go all the way up. We'll turn this into a mid-tone, this little triangle that we've got here. Okay. So let's go in with the Van Dyke because we know this is going to be dark. Now that we have that nice mid-tone there, of course keeping eye on where our light source is coming from. It's going to be over here. So let's add our deep tones. And let's actually, I'm going to do this too. I'm going to connect that. Call me crazy, but let's connect it. It almost looks like an orange pepper, but I'm okay with it. I think it's cool either way. So right here in my paper, I don't know if you can see, there's kind of like a flaw here. I don't know if it was from me or the pencils, or if it's just a manufacturing flaw, which is a good possibility. But yeah, it has, like, I can't get pigment into that area unless I push real hard, which, there it went. So we don't want to just keep this brown. So we're going to come back through with our Orange Lake and, ooh, my back popped. We're going to come back through with the Orange Lake and make sure that it's blended into a nice like brown orange. So it doesn't just look like brown. You know, you don't want to do that. Like this. So see, we're going to have some darker areas this way. But I think, if I'm looking at it right, and if you start getting streaky like I did there, just go across it a different direction and try to pull it out of that streakiness. So the exact opposite would be like here. So this is the darkest, probably from about here to here. Okay, so that is the darkest area. It's the furthest away from it. And then I got lighter handed as I went up into this area. Got very light handed because I don't want it to stay super dark. Okay, so get your orange lake. Let's add some. And do you see how that just adds like a certain amount of just warmth? It looks nice. It's not overpowering. It's dark and shadowed like it should be. And I said we were going to turn this into like a nice mid-tone. So we'll just take the orange lake here and feather it into that yellow. Okay. Okay. Let's grab our golden yellow deep again. Let's blend this area a little bit more. And then let's go back in. Let's use some burnt ochre. Give it more of a deeper orange tone here. Okay, and we're gonna go back in with the Van Dyke. Add a few more. Let's put some specks in here. Maybe we got some specks. Maybe we'll come around with a little bit of wavy lines here. And then I think get some lemon yellow up in here. Let's add a little bit of some orange lake. Maybe we'll create that there. And seriously, like, your pumpkin does not need to look like mine. If you just kind of venture off and you're just enjoying the process, like, just enjoy it. Add the little lines, add your own values. Just create. I mean, that's kind of what we do. So yeah, just go in and I mean, if you want to change something that I put down and you don't want to do that, don't do it. Like, it's okay. Like, let's just create. I have the terracotta, and I'm going to just darken it up just a little bit in this area. Maybe separate that out a little bit more. I have my Van Dyke brown. I'm going to separate it even further. And you don't have to have harsh lines either. You can leave them soft. See, looks good. It looks good to me. I think it looks pretty. For doing it from our heads, huh? Okay, so now comes the stem. Let's do the golden yellow deep. Okay, just gonna go along just like we did the pumpkin. This one's a little bit different though. We're gonna make it dark. Let's go terracotta over top of it, and then also you want to change your direction here, because look at you're gonna see like the lines are gonna be like very barky kind of. They're rough. I mean, it's a stem. And then on this side, it's going to be lighter. You're going to have ridges of light rather than, you know, a lot of what's going on in there. Like in here. So, okay, so now I have the Van Dyke. I'm actually going to sharpen my pencil because this is a small area and it requires a sharper point. Okay, so get your Van Dyke brown after you've sharpened it. And then what you're gonna do is come alongside of it. Okay, you're gonna make your lines. They don't have to be exactly apart from each other. You don't have to make, you know, you don't have to make them straight up and down. Actually, I'd prefer that you didn't, just because they aren't perfect. They're perfectly imperfect, but so it kind of blends into the pumpkin area here. So we're just going to come from the bottom up here, maybe create a couple of really dark areas just to give it that extra boost. And you don't want to color the whole thing, because see how I'm getting like a nice ridge, like a light ridge, and it's like reflective. It looks like it's reflecting some light, so we want to keep that. We want to keep that going, and it's probably going to be a bit lighter on this side. So let's go crazy and let's do some orange lake. We're just going to add a few little bits of orange in here, and it'll make it look nice. That's not too crazy, right? Not too crazy. Golden yellow deep. Let's just add a little bit in here. And I'm going to add a little bit of terracotta on the edge here, just so that it doesn't fall into the paper and we lose it. We lose that line. Okay, well that's our pumpkin. Let me grab the black. Okay, so I grabbed 3 extra pencils and we're going to see how they do. So I grabbed a burnt umber, an ivory black, and a Naples yellow light. Okay, so these 3 I'm going to use for the ground here that it's sitting on, and I'm also going to use the black up in, and I'll show you how to do that too with the use of the shadow underneath it. So we're not going to do it until we get the shadow. So I picked the Naples yellow light just because it's a nice like creamy color, and it's really hard to see on camera. It's there though. It really is, I promise. We could do purple. Like I could do a purple color just because it's like orange and purple. I mean, they're wonderful together, right? So let's see. Maybe we'll grab a lavender. Nah, let's not be too crazy. It's pumpkin, right? Okay, so I'm going to come in with the Naples yellow light. The only thing that I see that could happen potentially with the black is that depending on how the pigments are, which this will be a good test. Depending on how the pigments are, it may or may not, see it's pulling some color, which most pencils do that anyway. So it did pull a little bit of orange into my wild sketching here, which isn't terrible. Like I said, a lot of pencils do that. You have to be careful with the lighter colors on the darker colors because they will grab and can put additional colors that you didn't intend on having. See, there was a little bit. I noticed too that with this paper, it kind of happens a lot more often. Okay, so I did cover that. I promise I did. If you can't see it, I did color it. Kind of did a little bit of a squirrely color. It wasn't like, I wasn't being super, you know, tedious with it or anything. So now I'm going to use the burnt umber. Okay. Okay, so let's start with this burnt umber. Now, it's going to be a bit darker. My cat is sneezing. But I don't want the pumpkin to fall off into this. I still want to be able to see that there's a pumpkin there. And it looks like it's blending pretty well with that Naples, what was it? Naples yellow light. I'm going to come up underneath all these. Because remember, our sun is going this way, our direction of our light. So it's going to be, we're going to have less shadow here, but it's going to be darker right there. So with the addition of the shadow, see, I can pull some of this color up into the pumpkin, okay, and it will blend it real nicely. It'll blend that nice color. So I want to be light-handed. I don't want to really dig at the paper. I mean, I want that shadow, but I don't want it to be like burnished and then I can't add my black. So we might actually see in the shadow, you might see these ridges, like the shadow of the ridges. So you can even add some unevenness to it. And the shadow is going to get a little bit longer on this side. And it's going to probably end abruptly, like over here. So the further you get away from the pumpkin too, it's going to be softer. It's going to be a real harsh underneath here, like a heavy line, like you're going to have like a hard line. But then it's going to get softer over here as you go. And like blend it out into that area. So we can even go back with that Naples yellow light and we can blend that out just a little bit. Okay, so let's go in with our ivory black. And their black goes on really nicely. So don't be too heavy about that because it does want to go on. And I'm going to push some of this up into here, up into my pumpkin. And underneath the pumpkin, like directly underneath, I want it to be dark. And then we'll kind of blend out into that burnt umber here. Pull it up into this side a little bit. I don't know if you can hear my chickens. They are squawking about something. My dog was snoring a little bit ago. I was hoping you couldn't hear him, and I didn't want to say anything. Oh, these critters. So I was thinking the possibility with the black touching that Naples yellow light, which is more like a cream to me. It doesn't seem like a Naples color. Like the Naples yellow is always like almost like a dirty yellow, like a brownish yellow. I like that color. These pencils just want to kind of scratch. I don't know why. They just kind of want to create lines. They blend well, but it's always nice when you have like a nice smooth start, rather than having to go back and try to blend out those harsh, lines. Because now I have to go back through with this and really try to pull those out. Actually doesn't look terrible, huh? Kind of wish that this would blend out just a little bit better. I wonder if I go in heavier with my black. I'm going to try that. This is the first time I've used these pencils, so I'm sure if I used them a lot more, I'd probably understand them a little bit better. Because each pencil set that you get has its pros and cons. So, and then you find the one that you like and has the least cons, about it. Now, as far as my understanding, these pencils have not been tested for the light fastness. So, I think I said this earlier, because sometimes I make videos and sometimes they're like days apart from each other. So, like, I'm pretty sure that I said this, but I'll say it again. I'm with the light fastness, the rating on those and how quickly like the colors fade, and you find like some pencil sets have like good ratings. I mean, you have like the best of the best, which is, they really don't fade at all, 100% don't fade, whatever. But then you have ones that do, or they have low light fast ratings. And I don't think it's a terrible thing, but if you're doing it professionally, like if this is just practice, if you're just having fun, or if you're just trying to learn and save up for good pencils, I would say, definitely these are good practice pencils. So for my full disclosure here of what I think about these pencils is I will say that I think they're good, especially if you're just starting out. Here, I'm going to grab another one. Let's do the yellow ochre light, and I'm going to try to do the rest of this table that it's sitting on. So I'd say that if you are just starting out and you're looking for a good quality pencil, just to learn. These do blend well. They don't blend as good as the Prismacolor. And they're definitely not ranked on some of the better pencils that I have. They really don't rank on that. But again, like if you're just practicing and you're not selling these pieces, because I'd be afraid that if you were to start selling them and then they fade, and then you have the buyer who's upset because they spent, some money on it and they were expecting it to last, forever. Obviously, there's no guarantee that it won't fade, especially with ones that don't have a rating on it. So, and I can show you an example here. So on these pencils here, the yellow ochre light, it doesn't have anything other than the brand, the type, and it has the name and then the number. Whereas, like, for example, this is my Caran d'Ache Pablo. It says permanent color Pablo, the brand, where it's made. There's a barcode, but then it has the name, okay? The name, the number, and then it has the rating. You see the two little stars, okay? So some of them have 2, 3, there's 1, and then, the ones that have the 1 on them, I believe are the ones that, have the lower light fast rating, and that's just how I understand it. Of course, I haven't really gotten into the light fast ratings or anything, so I'm not in complete understanding of it quite yet, other than I know that if they haven't had the light fast rating, that they will fade. And I actually had a piece do that. I used Prismacolors to create it, and I got a horrible wax bloom on it on one of my pieces, and thankfully it was in my house. It wasn't one that I sold. But, and I feel like that's my heavy-handedness. Like, I feel like I was very heavy-handed on that particular piece. And I got a really bad wax bloom on it. And then on top of it, my colors wasn't in the sunshine. It wasn't in the sun, but it's still faded. So I could not sell it. And obviously I would not feel right about selling it. Considering I felt like it was damaged, even though I worked really hard on it. So I ended up just giving it away. Someone who really liked it, and I gave it to them and just told them, like, I'm sorry, but it faded. And, that's what you get sometimes with Prismacolors, and they didn't seem to mind. So as long as they know that, that's kind of what you get. So, but overall, these are good pencils to start with. They are not really expensive. I mean, so they're easy on the pocketbook. I'd say go for it. If there's more pros to these than there are cons, but I haven't really started to check out how they do with like the what do you call it? Oh my goodness. I can't think today. I didn't have enough coffee. Yep, still don't know the word that I'm looking for. That's all right. But I'd experiment more. I'm pretty sure that these are a wax-based pencil. I looked online for that answer, and I couldn't find anything. I did find an article that said that they don't really say wax-based or anything, but that they're comprised of a bunch of different materials to make them the way that they are. But I haven't had any breakage. I haven't had any trouble. So, I mean, Prismacolors, you run into that. They're so soft that they'll shatter. They won't sharpen well. Just tons and loads of problems, but they do make beautiful work, and they have been tested for the light fastness. So I would say to Castle Arts, definitely try to get a rating on these. I mean, they say they have light fast qualities, but I don't really know what that means, other than maybe the materials that they use. Maybe are high quality, but they just don't have the rating on it. So, which is good to know. Like if it has some qualities and they use like the same materials, it's a possibility that they are rated high or rated fair. So yeah, I mean, they're a good pencil. I don't have any problems with them other than, you know, I wish that they would blend just a little bit better. They are soft. I mean, as I work with them, they used to feel a little bit more chalky to me, but they're not chalky at all. I don't know why they felt like that to me, but they're not that bad. So I'd say if you're just practicing, you know, go for it. Get the Castle Arts pencils. Well, there's the pumpkin. And I hope you enjoyed it. I hope that you found it useful, helpful, and that you created something beautiful. So definitely, if you're not a part of my Facebook group, I would love to see you create this. You can get on there, see what's on my drawing board next. Give this video a like if you liked it. Too, also follow and subscribe and hit that notification bell. That way, whenever I post another monthly tutorial, that you will get it. Also, if you want deeper, more intense, and larger tutorials, like for animals, you can join me on Patreon for about $5 a month. You can do the 3 or 5, and you will get a monthly tutorial. So, with all that being said, I hope you have a wonderful day.